This is terrifying for me to share, and I'm still not sure if I should be. But I have no idea else what to do. I'm shaking as I type this, so I'm really sorry if it doesn't make sense. I'll try to start from the beginning. For as long as I can remember, there was an episode of Full House that has been burned into my memory. The only thing is that it doesn't exist. Or I shouldn't remember it existing. I must have been 6 or so when I remember watching this episode, but to this day I haven't found any evidence of its existence. I don't remember what the whole episode was itself, but I do remember its biggest plotline. Kimmy thought she was pregnant. It was later in the season of Full House when DJ and Kimmy were teenagers, and I remember a very specific moment in the episode when Kimmy was in DJ's room and they were waiting on the results of the test. It ended up being negative, and the girls celebrated and threw it in DJ's trash. Of course, later in the episode, Danny changes DJ's trash and finds the test, and he thinks it's hers and he freaks out. Then it comes out that it's Kimmy's, and Danny and DJ have a talk about consent and waiting to have sex, and Danny urges Kimmy to tell her parents. It was all really heavy and mature for an episode of Full House, but I thought nothing of it at the time. Since I didn't really get what sex was at the time, I brushed it off as another episode with an adult matter and that I just really didn't understand. I didn't really think there was anything wrong with it until years later, when I was a teenager watching the reruns of Full House. I saw every episode a few times over the course of a year, but I never saw that episode. And then I looked to show up on IMDb, and I didn't find that episode either. So I again dropped it. Until last year, when the whole Shazam Kazam thing happened and the Mandela effect was brought up, I remembered that episode of Full House again, and I did a frantic search for it on the internet. But I found no evidence of it. Nothing. Not even information on an episode that was pulled from air. I even posted about it on the Mandela Effect subreddit, but people didn't even seem to know what I was talking about and suggested that I was either thinking of another show or a movie, or I even drummed up the whole thing. Oh, but they're wrong. I can remember it clearly. Not a dream, but me sitting in front of the television and watching this episode. So even if this episode only aired once, how did nobody else seem to know about it? A couple of weeks ago, I was with my sister at our favorite bar, and we were talking about how anxious we were for the next season of Fuller House. What can I say? We love the cheesiness. When I thought to mention the episode to her, for some reason I never brought it up with my own sister, even though we watched the show together a lot. She teased me about it growing up, and she still teases me, so I think I was just scared of telling her, or scared of her calling me stupid or making fun of me or something. I tried starting out inconspicuously and said, "Do you remember an episode of Full House where Kimmy takes a pregnancy test?" To my shock, she said, "Yeah, I remember it. I actually don't remember the last time I've seen it, but I think I remember her taking the test and she's not pregnant, but of course it gets all dramatic because Danny finds the test and thinks it's DJ's." I stared at her and I was like, "Dude, that episode doesn't exist. I remember the exact same thing, but I swear to you, this episode doesn't exist." She basically told me I was stupid and that obviously it did exist because we both remembered it. And believe me, my sister has no idea what a Reddit even is. There's no way she found out about my post and then was pulling some prank on me. And besides, pranks really aren't her sense of humor. We kind of let the subject drop, and again, I thought that it was the last of the weirdness surrounding this whole issue. I mean, yes, it was weird, and even a little creepy, but not scary. can't tell you how much I wish that was the last time I thought about it. I logged into Reddit the other day and was checking my messages and stuff. Well, there was another response on my Full House post. It was some user, and all the reply was, "I remember, but I shouldn't, and neither should you. Delete this post now." Now, that did creep me out a little. I decided I didn't want any stupid comments on it anymore, so I went back to my profile to delete the whole post. Except when I clicked back to my profile, the post was nowhere to be found. And I'm not talking like the post was removed or anything like that. There was just no evidence whatsoever that the post had ever existed. Now I was convinced that there was something going on. I turned on the TV to calm my nerves and texted my sister telling her what happened. I got her response probably an hour later. It just made things worse. My sister acted all confused and asked what the heck I was even talking about. I recounted the whole Full House episode thing we talked about, but she assured me that she had no recollection of us ever having a conversation about it, and certainly didn't remember any Full House episode like that. Again, pranks aren't my sister's thing. This wasn't her style, and now the whole thing was getting way under my skin. How could my sister remember it 2 weeks ago, and not now? That whole Reddit thing, the conversation with her was 2 days ago. Yesterday, I got a message from a user on Reddit, which I'm pretty sure was the same person who commented originally on my other post. I copied and pasted it into Word doc right away because I was afraid it would get deleted. User Lightning Prods. You posted something about a Full House episode you remember that doesn't exist. I saw it too. It looks like you deleted the post. Good job. I'm going to delete my other profile after I send this, so don't try to respond. My best advice to you is to stop talking about this episode. Now. I shouldn't remember it, but I do. This isn't about Full House or any TV show. It's something much bigger, and you need to be careful. I'm risking my own butt to message you this, so please take my advice. My best friend and I both remember this episode. We remember watching it together with my brother babysitting us. The whole shebang. We actually talked about the episode a lot because she had a pregnancy scare herself in high school, and we jokingly compared it to the episode, and we're like, "Oh, don't throw it in the trash where the parents could see it." And when Fuller House came out, we binge watched the old series together before the new series, and that's when we realized that episode never existed. We searched everywhere on the internet for it, and like you said you did, but couldn't find any info. We figured it was just something that only aired once or something and then forgot about it. Fast forward to a few months ago. I bring the whole Full House thing up again for some reason, and she doesn't remember. I mean, we had just talked about it. We had stories behind it, and my best friend swears up and down that she has no idea what I'm even talking about. I work in production stuff now, so I figured I could somehow work my way up to somebody on the old Full House staff through my connections, since I wanted to figure this all out. So I talked to one of my friends and got my way up to one of the original producers for Full House and got this guy on the phone. I tell him the whole story, and this guy freaks the fuck out. I mean, he is basically like, "How do you know this? You shouldn't know this. Shut your mouth." All this stuff. And then the guy is like, "I'm going to tell you this so you know how to stop asking questions." So apparently this whole thing is some kind of test that the producers were forced into somebody, and I won't say who. They were supposed to create and air an out-of-place episode once and then never air it again. Then he goes on to say that the entire Full House cast and staff were ordered to watch the episode as it aired, all in one big theater. These were all orders from the same people who made them do it. Except the producer turned off his hearing aids while watching it and looked at the floor instead of the screen. And since then, he's the only one from the whole Full House team who remembers filming this episode. He sounded pretty scared and made me swear to keep it all a secret. I honestly think he only told me this because he was glad there was somebody else out there who remembered. I'm really sorry it took a long time for me to get this story out, but I just wanted you to hear my story and take it seriously. Stop talking about it. Stop thinking about it. For some reason, I'm scared that something is going to happen to me and maybe you too. The message was weird, and as the user promised, their profile was deleted, and then when I tried to click on it. As suspected, the message itself disappeared from my inbox shortly after I copied it. I couldn't stop thinking about it, so today I tried searching lightning prods on Google. On the second or third page, I found an email address on a website where some woman had her resume on it. Her resume looked like a bunch of video production stuff, so I figured this was the same person who had messaged me. Wanting more answers, I Googled her name. The results lit up with a bunch of news stories. Apparently, the woman had been abducted the night before from a Sunco. The gas station employee said he watched men dressed in all black throw her into a van and sped off. That was all last night, only hours after I got that message from the lightning prods user. Honestly, this is my last attempt at asking somebody for help. I know it's risky to share all of this stuff with the internet and possibly give away my identity, but it seems like they already got into my sister's brain, so they obviously have to know who I am. And I have no idea who the they is, but it's clear that this Full House episode was some kind of test that I either passed or failed, and I'm not supposed to remember it, and I realize that now. I keep trying to forget it, but I can't. It's seared into my memory, and I haven't forgotten about it now when I probably won't. Does it mean they're coming for me? Who is they? I'm terrified. I don't know how long this post will even stay up here, but please, if you remember this episode, keep it where it belongs. In your head.